The storm screamed across the frozen land like a living monster. Snow and ice cut through the air, sharp as blades, and the world was covered in white. The mother walked slowly, her legs heavy, her arms holding her small child close to her chest. She could barely see where she was going. The wind pulled her cloak. The ice stung her skin, and her breath came out in painful clouds. Her child was shaking, his small body weak, his lips turning blue. Every step she took felt harder than the one before. She whispered to him, soft words, to keep him awake. "Stay with me. Just stay with me." The boy's eyes opened and closed. His little voice came out like a broken whisper. "Mom, I'm so cold." Her heart broke at his words. She had no answer, no fire, no safe place. Around them, the storm grew worse. The ground cracked with ice, and shadows moved far away in the fog, shapes that were not human, she knew. The storm hid many dangers. She knew the storm was not only wind and snow. Something lived in it. Something hunted inside the storm. Her steps slowed. She thought maybe this was the end. Maybe no one could survive this place. The world had always been cruel to her. People did not help. Strangers turned away. She had never seen kindness. Only fear, only survival. And now she was losing the one thing that mattered most, her child. Then, through the blinding white, she saw it. A shape, a figure walking against the storm. At first, she thought it was her mind playing tricks. A dream before death. The figure was tall, strong, walking without fear. The storm seemed to push against him, but he did not fall. His steps were heavy, sure, like a man who had crossed storms many times before. She stopped. Her body shook, not just from the cold, but from fear. Who was this? What kind of person could move so calmly in a storm that killed everyone else? The figure came closer, step by step, until she could see the strange armor covering his body. It was not like the armor of her people. It was old, scratched, with strange lines glowing faintly under the ice dust. On his back, a weapon rested, long and heavy, glowing with a faint blue light. The mother's heart pounded. She pulled her child closer, as if to protect him from this stranger. She could not run. Her legs had no strength. The figure stopped a few steps away. Through the snow, she finally saw his face. It was human. The man's eyes were calm, but sharp, like he had seen many battles. His breath came steady, not shaken by the storm. For a long moment, he only looked at her, a woman, broken and tired, holding her child as if he were the last treasure in the universe. Then he spoke. His voice was strong, yet soft. "Give me the child. He will not survive if you stay out here." Her mind froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had offered help, not even in small things. Yet this stranger was asking her to trust him with the most precious thing she had. She shook her head. "No, he's all I have." The man's eyes did not change. He stepped closer, bending down slightly so the storm would not carry his words away. "You are dying. He is dying. If you stay, both of you will be gone, but I can carry him. I can save him. Trust me." The mother's lips trembled. She wanted to scream, to push him away, but her body was too weak, and deep in her heart, she felt something she had never felt before. Compassion. His voice was not cold. It was not cruel. It was full of something she had never known from strangers. Care. Her child coughed, his body weak in her arms. She looked at him, then at the man. Slowly, with shaking arms, she held her child out. The man took him carefully, as if the boy was the most fragile thing in the world. He adjusted the child against his chest, inside his armor's protection. For the first time, the boy stopped, shaking so violently The man looked back at her. "You will walk with me. Stay close. I know the way." She followed, her feet dragging through the deep snow. The man moved with strength, cutting a path through the storm. His figure seemed like a wall between her and the deadly wind. Every time she looked at him, she felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Who was he? Why would he help her? Why would a man risk himself for a woman and a child he did not know? The storm roared louder, and far away, something growled in the white fog. The mother's heart jumped. The sound was not the storm. It was something else, something big, something hunting. She looked at the man, but he did not turn his head. He only said, in a calm, steady voice, "Keep moving. Do not look back."
Yeah.
And in that moment, she knew this night was not only about the storm. Something darker was following them, and this strange man, this human, was the only thing standing between her child and the cold death waiting in the ice. The storm did not end. It grew heavier, throwing sheets of ice like knives. The mother followed. The man step by step, her tired feet sinking into the frozen ground. She wanted to stop many times, but the sight of her child held safe in the man's arms gave her a small spark of strength. The boy's face was still pale. Peta's chest rose and fell steadily now. Wrapped against the man's armor, the child was shielded from the cruel wind. It was strange. The storm seemed to bend around the man, as if even the weather feared him. The mother had questions burning inside her, but her lips were frozen, her throat dry. Still, after a long silence, she managed to whisper, "Why? Why are you helping us?" The man did not stop walking. His voice came calm, almost too calm for the deadly world around them. "Because you need help." The answer shocked her. She had never heard such simple words spoken with such weight. In her world, no one helped without asking for something. In return, trade, favors, or survival, that was all people knew. But this stranger had risked his life for her child without hesitation. She wanted to believe him. But suspicion dug into her chest. What if he had a hidden plan? What if he was leading her into a trap? Her people had always told her, never trust. Outsiders yet, when she looked at his back, steady and strong, cutting through the storm like a shield, she felt something new. A feeling she was almost afraid to name. Hope daughters seemed to pass in that storm, though maybe it was only minutes. The world had no light, no sense of time. The mother's legs grew weaker, but the man's pace never broke. Finally, he stopped. In front of a cliff wall, smooth and covered with thick ice. The mother blinked in confusion. It was a dead end. No caves, no shelter, just a wall of frozen stone. "We can't stay here," she said, fear rising in her voice. The man shifted the child in his arms and placed a hand against the wall. Strange blue lines lit up under his glove, crawling across the ice like fire spreading through dry wood. With a deep crack, a hidden doorway opened, ice falling away to reveal a dark passage inside. The mother gasped. She had never seen such technology. The man stepped inside, and she followed quickly, glad to escape the storm. The door sealed behind them, and the outside world disappeared. For the first time, there was silence. No screaming wind, no cutting ice. Only the sound of her own fast heartbeat. The man placed the child gently on a stone bench. He pulled a small metal box from his belt and opened it. Inside were tools and small glowing packs. He pressed one of the packs against the boy's chest. The glow spread into the child's skin, warming it. The boy let out a small sigh, his breath easier now. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She had thought her son would die, but already his skin had color. Again, You saved him," she whispered. The man finally looked at her directly. His face was calm, but there was something hidden in his eyes. Pain, memory. "Not yet. He is safe, for now." But the storm is only one danger here. The mother's heart sank. She wanted to rest, to believe the nightmare was over. But the man's words cut through her hope. "What do you mean?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. He placed his weapon against the wall and knelt beside the boy, adjusting the glowing pack. His movements were gentle, almost careful, as if he had done this before many times. At last, he said quietly, "There are things in the storm, creatures made of ice and hunger. They followed the sound of weakness. Your child's cry, it will have called them." The mother shivered, not from the cold, but from fear. She remembered the growl she had heard earlier, the shape moving in the fog. Her voice shook. "Then, why did you stop for us? If they are coming, you should have left us." The man stood slowly, his tall shadow filling the small chamber. His armor glowed faintly in the dark. "Because I don't leave people to die." The words were spoken so simply, but they hit her like a stone. She wanted to argue, to question him, but her lips stayed closed. For a long time, silence filled the chamber. The child slept, breathing softly. The mother watched the man as he checked his weapon, running a hand along the glowing lines carved into its surface. Finally, she whispered, "Who are you?" The man looked at her, his face half in shadow. For a moment, she thought he would not answer. Then, in a voice low but steady, he said, "I am human. That is enough." Before she could ask more, a deep sound echoed from outside. The walls trembled faintly. It was not the storm. It was heavier, slower, alive. The mother froze in fear. She knew that sound. The hunters of the storm had found them. The man picked up his weapon, the glow along its surface brightening. His eyes locked on the door as if he had been waiting for this. He spoke only one sentence, but his voice carried power. "Stay with the boy. Do not move. Whatever happens, I will hold the line." And in that moment, the mother realized something. This stranger was not just saving her child. He was standing between them and the nightmare waiting in the storm. The chamber walls shook again, this time louder. A sound like stone grinding against stone. The mother pressed her child closer, fear rising in her chest. The boy stirred but stayed asleep, warm from the glowing pack. The man stood tall, weapon ready, his calm eyes fixed on the sealed doorway of ice. He showed no fear, no panic, only quiet focus. Outside, the storm roared, but beneath it came another sound. Heavy steps, slow, deliberate, each one closer than the last. The mother whispered, her voice breaking, "It's here, isn't it?" The man gave a short nod. "Yes, it has found us." Her heart froze. The stories were true. The storm had hunters. They were not spirits or shadows, but real creatures. Monsters that walked in the blizzard, feeding on anyone foolish enough to be outside. The ground trembled. Then came the growl, deep, low, like the earth itself was alive. The man raised his weapon. Blue light pulsed along its edges. His voice remained calm, steady. "Stay behind me. Do not move. Do not make a sound." The mother obeyed. She pulled her child tighter, crouching low, her back pressed to the far wall. Her hands shook, but she dared not speak again. Then, with a thunderous crack, the doorway split open. Ice exploded inward, spraying across the chamber like glass shards. The storm howled into the room, carrying with it a stench of frost and decay. And through that broken doorway, the beast entered. It was taller than any human, its body built of jagged ice and thick muscle beneath. Its eyes glowed like frozen suns, burning white in the darkness. Sharp claws dug into the stone floor, leaving deep scars with every step. Its breath came out as fog, freezing the air. The mother almost screamed, but her voice caught in her throat. She clutched her child, praying the monster would not notice them. The beast's gaze swept the room. Then it locked on the man. It roared. The walls shook. Snow fell from the ceiling. The ground trembled beneath its weight. The man did not move. He stood firm, weapon raised. The blue glow grew brighter, humming with energy. For a moment, silence hung between them, predator and protector. Then the beast lunged. It moved faster than the mother expected, its huge body crashing forward like an avalanche. The man rolled. To the side, his weapon cutting through the air. A beam of light shot out, striking the beast's shoulder. Ice shattered, spraying across the room. The monster howled, furious. The battle had begun. The man moved with practiced skill. Every step, every swing of his weapon was controlled. He was not reckless. He fought like someone who had done this many times before. The beast struck with its claws, smashing into the stone, sending cracks racing across the floor. The man dodged, sliding across the icy ground, his weapon humming as he fired again. Another blast tore chunks from the creature's chest, but still it stood, roaring louder, angrier. The mother's heart pounded. She wanted to close her eyes, but she couldn't. She had to watch. She had to see if this stranger could really stand against such a monster. The beast swung again. This time, the man blocked with his weapon. The impact shook the room, sending shockwaves of ice and stone. He staggered but did not fall. With a quick movement, he slashed the glowing blade across the beast's arm. The creature screamed as shards of frozen flesh rained to the ground. Still, it did not stop. The mother realized the truth. This monster was not just strong. It was relentless. It would not stop until one of them was dead. The man breathed heavy now, his armor scratched, glowing lines flickering with strain. But his eyes never left the beast. He adjusted his stance, grounding himself like a mountain. The creature lunged again, jaws wide, teeth sharp as broken glass. The man waited until the last second. Then, with a roar of his own, he drove his weapon deep into the beast's chest. Blue light exploded. The chamber shook. The beast howled, a scream of pain and rage that echoed through the storm outside. Its body convulsed, ice cracking. Glowing eyes flickering. The mother covered her child's ears, tears streaming down her face. The sound was unbearable, like the world itself was breaking apart. Finally, with one last cry, the beast collapsed. Its body shattered into pieces, falling across the floor in a storm of broken ice. The chamber grew silent again, except for the sound of the storm outside. The man pulled his weapon free, glowing blade dimming. He stood still for a moment, breathing hard. Then looked back at the mother. She stared at him in shock, her mouth open but no words coming out. She had never seen such courage. She had never seen such power. The man spoke quietly, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. It won't be the last one. They travel in packs. We have to move. The mother's fear returned at once. More. Of those monsters, how could they survive? But when she looked at the man, standing tall despite his wounds, something inside her shifted. For the first time in her life, she believed survival was possible. She whispered, voice trembling, "Who are you?" "Really?" The man only shook his head. "Not who I am, what I do. I fight so others can live." Then he turned toward the broken doorway, the storm screaming beyond it. His weapon glowed again, casting light across the dark chamber. And with the child safe in her arms, the mother realized this strange human was not just a protector. He was a force, a shield against the storm, a warrior who stood where no one else would, but outside. In the blizzard, more glowing eyes were already waiting. The storm outside screamed like a wounded animal. Through the broken doorway, faint glowing lights moved in the snow. One, then two, then more. The mother's stomach turned cold. But the man was right. The beast he killed was not alone. The boy still slept, safe for now, his small chest rising and falling. The mother pressed him close, fear pulling at her heart. She looked at the man, hoping for answers. He stood at the doorway, weapon glowing. Faint blue, his tall figure blocking the storm from reaching them. His voice came low, steady. They will come together. They always do. Do not move. Protect the boy. The mother wanted to ask, "What about you?" But the words never left her mouth. She could see it in his eyes. He was ready. He had been ready. Long before this night, the ground shook. Snow exploded as three beasts crashed through the storm, their glowing eyes cutting through the white fog. They were larger than the first. Their bodies bristled with frozen spikes, claws sharp as blades. Their growls blended with the howl of the wind, turning the storm into a chorus of death. The mother pressed herself to the wall, whispering to her child, though he could not hear, "Stay asleep. Please stay asleep." The man lifted his weapon, and without another word, he stepped into the storm. The first beast charged. Its huge body smashed through the ice, jaws wide. The man dodged with practiced speed, his blade slicing across its leg. The creature howled, collapsing to the side, but another beast lunged from behind. The man spun, his weapon glowing bright. A beam of blue light tore through the air, striking the second beast in the chest. Ice exploded, shards scattering across the storm. But the monster did not fall. It kept coming, screaming in rage. The third beast circled, waiting for the moment to strike. Their glowing eyes burned like cold suns in the darkness. The storm swallowed the sounds of the fight, but the mother could see flashes of light, shadows of movement. Every time the man's blade struck, the snow lit up. Every time the beasts roared, the ground shook. She held her child tighter, whispering prayers she didn't believe in. All she could do was hope the stranger would not fall. The man fought like a storm inside the storm. His blade cut through the night, his body moving faster than seemed possible. He blocked claws, dodged jaws, and struck with precision. He never wasted a move. The first beast limped back, injured but not dead. The second clawed at his armor, sparks flying as metal screeched. The man grunted, pushing it back with a burst of glowing energy. The third finally struck. It leaped high, jaws wide enough to crush him whole. The man dropped low, rolled across the ice, and thrust his weapon upward. The blade pierced the beast's throat. With a shattering cry, the monster fell, its body crashing into the snow like a broken wall. The other two roared louder, angrier. The ground trembled under their rage. The mother's fear turned to awe. She had never seen anyone fight like this. The man was not just defending himself, he was fighting for her child. Every move, every strike, was to keep danger away from them. Still, she could see his armor cracking, glowing lines flickering weakly. He was strong, but he was not unbreakable. The second beast lunged again, slamming him into the ice wall. The chamber shook. For a moment, the man staggered, pain flashing in his eyes. The mother gasped, ready to scream, but then he pushed off the wall with a roar, driving his blade deep into the creature's chest. Blue light exploded. The beast howled once, then collapsed into shards of ice. Only one remained. The largest. It growled low, circling him slowly, learning from the other's mistakes. Its glowing eyes locked on the man, waiting for the perfect chance. The man tightened his grip on the weapon. His armor sparked, lights fading, but his stance was solid. He did not back away. For a long moment, storm and silence battled in the air. Then the beast lunged. The final clash was brutal. The monster's claws tore across the ice, missing him by inches. The man rolled, striking again and again, his blade cutting deep. The beast roared, swinging its massive arm, smashing the ground. So hard, the earth cracked. The mother felt the chamber shake around her. Stones fell from the ceiling. She shielded her boy with her body, praying it would hold. Outside, the storm roared louder, as if cheering the fight. The man leaped forward, his blade glowing with every last drop of power. He drove it straight into the beast's chest. The monster screamed, its body shaking violently. Ice cracked across its surface, light bursting from its wounds. With one final cry, the beast shattered into 1,000 shards. Scattering across the storm like broken stars, the storm fell quiet. For a moment, there was nothing but the soft whistle of the wind. The man stood still, breathing heavy, his weapon dim. His armor was damaged, glowing lines flickering faintly, but he was alive. Slowly, he lowered the blade. The mother stared at him, her mouth open, her eyes wide. She could not speak. She could not understand how one man could stand against so many monsters and survive. The man turned back toward her. His face was pale, tired, but his eyes were steady. "They will keep coming," he said quietly. "We cannot stay here. We move at first light." The mother swallowed hard, looking at the broken shards of the beasts scattered across the ground. Fear still gripped her heart, but so did something else. Something new, hope. The storm outside roared like a wild beast, but inside the shattered chamber, silence returned. The man's blade dimmed, the last flickers of blue light fading until it was only a scarred piece of metal once more. His armor sparked faintly, glowing lines broken, his breath heavy. The mother sat against the wall, clutching her child tightly. She had not moved during the battle, frozen in fear and awe. Now, she finally allowed herself to breathe. Her boy still slept, warm against her chest, his face no longer pale. The man turned from the doorway, stepping back into the chamber. The snow and wind fell away as the ice sealed itself once more. For now, they were safe. But the man's face told another story. His jaw was tight, his eyes sharp. He was alive, yes, but there was no relief in him. The mother whispered, her voice trembling, "You fought them. And won. How is that possible? No one can kill those things." The man wiped frost from his weapon and slid it across his back. His answer was simple, his tone steady. "They bleed. If they bleed, they can be killed." The words were strong. But the mother saw more in his face. She saw exhaustion, pain, and something deeper memory. He had fought them before. Many times, they moved deeper into the passage, away from the broken chamber. The walls here were carved long ago, smooth, ice mixed with old stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly, etched into the walls like scars. The mother looked at them in wonder. "What are these?" The man brushed his fingers across one of the carvings. His voice grew quieter, almost distant. "Names. The ones who fell before me. I keep them here, so they are not forgotten." The mother's chest tightened. She looked at the symbols again and realized each one carried weight. Each one was a life. A life lost in this storm. She hugged her child closer, whispering softly. For the first time, she felt the sorrow carried by this stranger. He was not just a fighter. He was a witness to loss. At the end of the passage, they entered a larger chamber hidden deep within the ice. Unlike the rough caves, this place was built. Metal beams crossed the ceiling, faint lights glowed along the walls, and old machines hummed weakly, still alive after years of silence. It was a shelter. a forgotten outpost from long ago. The man placed the boy gently on a narrow bed. He pulled out another glowing pack from his belt and pressed it against the child's skin. Warmth spread again, steadying his breathing. The mother touched her son's face, tears filling her eyes. He is getting stronger. The man nodded. He will live. For now. Words always carried that warning. For now, never a promise. Of safety, never certainty. The mother looked around the shelter. Dust, broken crates, scattered tools. It was clear no one had lived here for many years. Yet the man moved like he knew every corner. He checked the walls, the machines, the vents. Every step was practiced. "You've been here before," she said quietly. He didn't answer at first. Then, finally, yes. This is one of the last safe places left. The mother frowned. "Why are you here at all? Why fight those monsters? Why help us? No one else would." The man paused. His back was to her, his hand resting on a cracked metal console. His shoulders were heavy, as if carrying a weight too large for one person. At last he spoke. His voice was low, but strong. "Because once, long ago, I saw what happens when no one stands up. Entire worlds fall. People cry for help, and no one comes. I promised myself I would not let it happen again." The mother stared at him, her heart racing. She had grown up in a world where compassion was weakness, where survival was the only rule. But this man spoke of promises, of saving lives that were not his own. You don't even know us," she whispered. The man finally turned, his face lit faintly by the shelter's dying lights. His eyes were steady, full of quiet fire. "I don't need to. You are alive. That is reason enough." The mother's throat tightened. She had never heard such words before. Never imagined a person could live by them. The boy stirred in his sleep, letting out a soft sigh. The mother kissed his forehead, holding him close. Then she looked back at the man. "You said they travel in packs. More will come." He nodded. "Yes, and stronger ones too. This shelter will not hide us forever. They will smell the blood of their fallen. They will not stop until we are gone." Her chest filled with dread. She wanted to beg him to stay, to keep fighting, to protect them forever. But she saw the truth in his eyes. He could not fight forever. Even he had limits. The silence stretched between them. The machines hummed softly. The storm rumbled beyond the ice. Finally, the mother spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then why not leave? Why not escape this world and save yourself?" The man's jaw tightened. For a long time, he did not answer. Then, softly, "Because I am the last one left. If I go, there will be no one else." The mother's eyes widened. The last one. The last of what? She wanted to ask more, but the words caught in her throat. She looked at him, this strange warrior who carried the weight of the dead, who fought monsters and storms, who saved a child not his own, and, for the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known. The storm outside never rested. It clawed at the walls of the shelter, howling like a beast that refused to die. But inside, there was silence. The boy slept peacefully on the narrow bed, his face warm with color once more. The mother sat beside him, brushing strands of hair. From his forehead, her heart finally calm after endless hours of fear. But when she lifted her eyes, she saw the man. He stood apart near the wall where faint carvings glowed under the ice. His back was straight, his shoulders heavy. His eyes fixed on names etched long ago. The mother wanted to leave him in silence, but questions gnawed at her. She could not carry them any longer. "Who are you, really?" she whispered. The man's jaw tightened. He did not turn. His hand brushed the carvings like one might touch the gravestones of fallen friends. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, at last, his voice came low, steady, almost heavy. "I am human. One of the last who remain on this world." The words made her heart stutter. She had heard stories of humans long ago, travelers from the stars, soldiers who came during the first storms. But they were only myths, tales told in the dark. "You mean there were more? Like you?" The man nodded slowly. "Yes, many came. They fought, they built, they tried to protect. But the storms, the beasts, the endless cold, one by one, they fell. Some left, some could not." The mother's throat tightened, and you stayed. His eyes finally turned to her. They were not just the eyes of a fighter. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much loss. "I stayed because someone had to. If I left, no one would remember. No one would keep fighting. This world would belong only to the storm." The mother shook her head, struggling to understand. "But why? You could have escaped. You could have lived somewhere safe. Why choose this?" He looked at her child sleeping soundly, then back at the carvings on the wall. His voice carried both sorrow and fire. "Because I saw compassion once. Long ago, a child, not my own, saved me when I should have died. His people had nothing, yet they gave me everything. That moment changed me. It showed me there is something greater than survival, something worth fighting for." The mother's eyes filled with tears. She had lived her whole life believing kindness was weakness. But here stood a man who lived by it, who had made it his weapon. She whispered, almost afraid to break the silence, "You fight for people you don't even know." The man nodded. "Every life matters. Yours, your boys, even strangers I will never meet. If I can stand in the way of the storm, even for a moment, then that moment is worth everything." The chamber felt smaller now, as if his words carried a weight too large for its walls. The mother looked again at the carvings, names stretching across the ice like endless stars. "Are these all people you lost?" "Yes," he said softly. "Friends, brothers, sisters in battle, all of them gone, but not forgotten. I write their names so the storm cannot erase them." The mother reached out, her hand trembling, and touched one of the glowing marks. The ice felt cold, but under it she sensed something deeper. Memory, sacrifice, love. Touch, her voice cracked. "And when you fall, who will write your name?" The man's face hardened. He did not answer right away. Finally, he said, "If that day comes, then maybe there will be someone left to remember me. Someone who sees what compassion means. Maybe someone like you." Her breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to say she was not strong, not brave. But in his eyes, she saw the truth. He was not only fighting to protect her child, he was teaching her, showing her a path she had never imagined. The storm pounded harder above, shaking the beams of the shelter. The boy stirred in his sleep, letting out a soft cough. The mother bent down quickly, comforting him. The man stepped closer, his armor still scarred from the battle. He placed another glowing pack on the boy's chest. Warmth spread again, and the child relaxed. "Your son is strong," the man said gently. "He has the heart of a fighter." Tears welled in her eyes. "He wouldn't have lived without you." The man shook his head. "No, he lived because you carried him through the storm. You did not give up. That is the greatest fight of all." The words sank deep into her heart. She had always thought herself weak, powerless. But this man, this warrior of compassion, saw strength in her she never knew existed. For a moment, the chamber grew quiet again. Only the hum of the machines and the whisper of the storm above remained. Then the man's eyes hardened once more. He moved toward the doorway, picking up his weapon. "They are not finished," he said. "The storm will not stop. More will come. Stronger, faster, smarter. We must be ready." The mother's heart sank. She wanted to rest, to stay safe inside these walls, but deep inside, she knew he was right. She rose slowly, holding her child close, and whispered, "If they come, will you fight them again?" He turned, the faint light catching his scarred armor, his face half in shadow. His voice was steady, unshaken. "I will fight as long as I can stand. Because humans do not abandon hope. We protect. We endure. We rise." The mother's breath caught in her throat. For the first time in her life, she felt she was standing in the presence of something more than a man, a legend. But outside, beyond the walls, the storm shifted. And in that endless white, new shadows began to move. The battle was not over. It was only beginning. The storm raged for 3 days without rest. The shelter shook under its fury, the beams creaking, ice falling from the ceiling. Every hour, the mother feared the walls would collapse and bury them alive, but the man never showed fear. He stood guard at the entrance, weapon ready, eyes sharp, as if his will alone held the storm back. Her child grew stronger with each passing hour. His color returned, his breaths deepened. Sometimes he woke and smiled faintly, whispering to his mother. But most of the time, he slept. Safe in warmth, the man provided with his strange, glowing packs. The mother had no words for what she felt. Gratitude, yes. Awe, yes. But more than that, a seed of belief. Belief that maybe kindness was not weakness. That maybe survival did not always mean turning away. On the 4th day, the storm began to fade. The winds grew quieter, the roar softened, and pale light cut through cracks in the ice. The world outside was still dangerous, but for the first time, it looked survivable. The man lowered his weapon and turned to them. "It's time. The storm has broken. You can leave now." The mother frowned. "We." He shook his head slowly. "No. You, the boy. You must leave this place. Walk east until you find the river. Follow it. You will find others there." Her heart clenched. "What about you?" He looked at the carvings on the wall, the names of the fallen glowing faintly. His voice came quiet but firm. "My place is here. The beasts will return. Someone must hold them back. Someone must stand." Tears filled her eyes. She stepped closer, shaking her head. "You can't fight forever. You'll die." He met her gaze. His eyes carried no fear, only a calm acceptance. "If I fall, then at least I fall standing. That is enough." The mother's knees weakened. She wanted to argue, to beg him to come with them. But deep down, she knew the truth. He did not belong to one family, one child. He belonged to something greater. He was the wall between the living and the storm. Her child stirred then, opening his eyes. His small hand reached out toward the man. "Don't go." The man knelt beside him, his battle-worn armor creaking. For the first time, he smiled, though it was faint and heavy with sorrow. He placed his hand gently on the boy's shoulder. "You are strong," he said softly, "stronger than you know. One day you will grow, and you will remember this. Remember that humans stand for others. That is what makes us who we are." The boy's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded weakly, as if even in his young heart. He understood. The mother bit her lip to keep from crying out loud. She held her son close, then turned back to the man. "What should I tell him when he is older? What should he know about you?" The man rose slowly, tall and unshaken. His weapon glowed once more, faint blue light cutting through the dim chamber. He looked toward the doorway where the storm still whispered, "Tell him." That once there was a man who stood in the storm, not because he was strong, not because he was fearless, but because he chose compassion when others chose silence. That is all. The mother's tears fell freely now. She wanted to hold his hand, to beg him to leave with them. But she knew nothing could move him from his path. The storm outside began to shift again, the sound of distant growls echoing through the ice. The man tightened his grip on his weapon. He was already preparing for the next fight. The mother kissed her child's forehead, then stood. Her legs were weak, her heart heavy, but she forced herself to be strong for her son. For the man at the doorway, she turned one last time. The man stood tall, his back to her, his figure framed in the faint glow of the storm. A lone warrior against endless darkness. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice shook, but it carried all the weight of her soul. The man did not turn. He only raised his weapon, the blue glow burning brighter, and spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "This is what humans do." The mother stepped into the pale light of the broken storm. She carried her boy in her arms, walking east as he had told her. Every step was painful, but her heart carried a fire she had never known before. Behind her, the storm roared once more. But she did not look back. She did not need to, because she knew he was there, standing, fighting, holding the line, and though she would never see him again, his legacy lived on. It lived in her heart. It lived in her son. It lived in the story she would tell again and again, so no one would forget. The story of the man who saved them. The story of the last human who showed compassion in the heart of the storm. The story of how hope can survive even in the coldest world.